Sometimes, all you want to do is immerse yourself in a certain time period and that time period only. Call it being a freak or just particularly interested, but there have been many times throughout the years when I found myself wanting to just vibe in a certain era. Especially was this true when I lived at home and played games with my brother. We would play one game on our PC, usually Total War, and another on the TV, often matching the time periods more or less exactly for that sweet immersion. And so, in this video, I thought I'd do something a bit different and talk about which games I think you should play at the same time for that peak postmodern iPad baby no attention span lifestyle. After all, the PC-TV combo was my version of the actual video on top, Subway Surfer on the bottom phone split, so nothing's really new under the sun here. Mind you that for this video, it's paramount that the Total War pairing has at least a console variant, as the whole point is being able to play the two games at the same time or side by side. And speaking of other awesome games to play, if you love those deep strategy games, why not try out the incredibly unique Prosperous Universe? Prosperous Universe is a deep simulation game where you run your own spacefaring trade company, but the secret sauce here lies in the depth and dedication to simulation. This is first and foremost a deep and immersive economic, production, and trade simulator. And with the amazingly intricate and customizable Apex interface, you actually partake in a universe which is made up of other players in a community-driven economy of alliances, politics, shipping, and even space colonization. If you love the deeper parts of strategy and trade, make sure to check out Prosperous Universe right now, which can be played for free and entirely from your own browser or even through Steam. Thank you so much to Simulogics for sponsoring this video. And by the way, while I have you here, only 9% of people watching this video are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy my content guys, it would mean so much to me if you made a simple click and sub to the channel. It really goes a long way in helping my content reach further, and hopefully help you in knowing when there's new content to be enjoyed. I'd really appreciate it. For our first combo, let's start in the ancient times and move forward, shall we? If you're loving that ancient Greece aesthetic, why not fire up some Assassin's Creed Odyssey on the side? They might take place in different time periods, but the visuals, locations, and just overall vibe of these games are unmistakably similar. In Troy, Greece and the Aegean are depicted as warm and colorful, almost like an eternal summer, with marching waves, beautiful golden sands, and of course, the classic Greek and Trojan heroes, and a lot of spear and shield warfare. The exact same goes for ASC Odyssey, with the colors popping wherever you go, and with both the land and the oceans once again feeling like a love letter to sunny and warm Greece. If Troy seems like a bit too far back though, we always have the Wrath of Sparta campaign for Rome 2, which in fact does take place at exactly the same time, quite literally beginning just 1 year apart. And while Troy might be closer to Odyssey's aesthetics, Wrath of Sparta is more thematically similar, but no matter which Total War you prefer, both of them reflect Odyssey in more ways than one, and both match Odyssey to a T. Moving just a bit ahead now, whether I was playing the Rome Total War series alone or literally took turns role-playing various generals with a friend or my brother, Rome 2 especially goes so extremely well with Assassin's Creed Origins. And yes, you might have realized now that Total War and Assassin's Creed have depicted a lot of the same eras, which really isn't a bad thing at all. Rome 2 adopted a radically different look and style from its predecessors, focusing a lot on lighting and scale to bring its world to life. One of my favorite areas of Rome 2 has to be Egypt, as you can really feel those ancient sands and the fertility of the Nile. Egypt just feels so foreign in a way Italy or Greece do not. This obviously coming from a Norwegian who's more used to European stuff. But I get the exact same feeling in Assassin's Creed Origins, where ancient Egypt is depicted so extremely well. And I really feel like Egypt itself is a very rare thing to be portrayed this detailed in all of media actually. What's even more relevant is the fact that Origins takes place in the 40s BC and the coming of Roman occupation of Egypt with Caesar. And even though Rome 2's main campaign begins much earlier, it does in fact reach this time period. Alternatively, the Augustus campaign actually takes place just a few years after, when Egypt is ruled by Cleopatra herself. It's almost a one-for-one experience, and Origins really is the perfect match for Rome 2. Alternatively, Rise Son of Rome is another game to play alongside Rome 2. Seeing as it takes place in a somewhat alternate depiction of the late Roman Empire, Rise is probably best paired with the late Roman campaign, again the Augustus campaign, or perhaps Empire Divided, as it does after all portray a Rome which suffers heavily from barbarian dangers. For a really spicy pairing, I recommend playing Total War Attila, which depicts the fall of the Western Roman Empire and the early Dark Ages, and Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. Bannerlord is not a historically accurate game, but it does take place in a world extremely inspired by this late antiquity, early medieval period. Especially is this the case for the Empire, which is essentially a one-for-one reimagining of the Roman empires. And we even have factions reminiscent of the Saxons, Franks, Huns, and Sassanids here. So I think it's a surprisingly awesome combo. Our next matchup focuses on the Viking Age, and specifically Thrones of Britannia. Thrones takes place in the late 9th century and solely portrays Britain as the Anglo-Saxons deal with their fair share of Viking invasions. England is depicted as a rather dreary, cold, and swampy place. And wouldn't you know it, the exact same thing goes for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. As with Odyssey and Wrath of Sparta, Valhalla and Thrones both occur around the year 878, and Valhalla goes to great lengths to bring this early medieval England to life. Alternatively, it's always possible to swap out Thrones of Britannia for Attila's Age of Viking mod, where you'll get much more of Europe to play around in, but still taking place during the same age. Valhalla even lets you play around in Norway, and I wish Thrones of Britannia did the same. Alas. Now we arrive at the game which began it all, namely Medieval 2. I cannot describe how Medieval 2's hot seat mode is the originator of this entire concept, as it allowed me and a partner to take turns playing Total War, while the other could play another game on the TV. The classic combo for me was always Medieval 2 and the first Assassin's Creed games, in particular Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. Medieval 2 takes place between the 11th and the 16th century, making it quite the all-encompassing medieval experience. If you additionally own the Kingdoms expansion, which you actually had to if you wanted to play Hot Seat, the Crusades campaign was particularly epic, and paired better with no other game than the original Assassin's Creed, where cities like Jerusalem, Acre, and Damascus were represented in amazing detail. If you play the original Grand Campaign or even a more comprehensive mod, however, Medieval 2 paired arguably even better with Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, and Revelations, as these Renaissance-era games in Italy and Istanbul allowed us to see more of this world outside of the Holy Land. A more recent game is of course Kingdom Come Deliverance, taking place in the late Middle Ages as well, in the same century, although a bit earlier, as AC2. KCD focuses on realism and historical authenticity, and offers a stunningly beautiful world in a smaller location in medieval Bohemia. The next game in the Total War series is Empire, and even though we sadly lost the hot seat function, we luckily still have comparable games to play while we play. Empire takes place in the Imperial Age, in a time of great world-spanning empires in both Europe, North America, and large parts of Asia. It is of course an age of both gunpowder and naval warfare, and so there are several games to choose from here. And of course, they're all in the Assassin's Creed series. Assassin's Creed 3 takes place during the American Revolution in the 13 colonies and what will become the United States, in cities like New York and Boston. Since we are playing as Connor, a part of AC3 is also the Native American aspect, which makes it all the more relevant if you're playing Empire's Warpath campaign. But perhaps even more fitting is Assassin's Creed Black Flag and its spiritual successor, Rogue, as these games focus on the very important naval aspect and also takes place closer to the beginning years of Empire. The interesting thing is that there's another game we can include here, namely AC Unity, which portrays Paris during the French Revolution. In this sense, Unity is perhaps more fitting for Napoleon, but in my opinion both of these Total War games go well with all of these Assassin's Creed games, and I'm really starting to wonder whether Creative Assembly and Ubisoft are syncing up their timelines here. If one stretches the concept somewhat, one could perhaps also include Red Dead Redemption 2 here, if one really wishes to go for that American New World type game. Of course it's not exactly the same, but the use of gunpowder and the rendition of a relatively young US does give off a similar vibe, I'd say, so it's not too far-fetched to be playing these at the same time. Lastly, we have Total War Shogun 2, a game taking place during, among other eras, Feudal Japan and the Age of the Samurai. It's a very unique Total War in this sense, and depicts an era and geography no other Total War does. So while you're enjoying this game, why not play some of the excellent Ghost of Tsushima? This is the best samurai game ever made, being so filthy beautiful it's hard to express, and is a fantastic game all on its own, being both aesthetically pleasing and mechanically sound, and sports perhaps the best third-person fencing system ever. And those were my favorite games to play while playing each era of Total War games. If you have any other examples or have thoughts on this video, please let me know in the comments. And as always, make sure to leave a like and sub to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.